Welcome back to the dark abode known as the Curse Cabin. Together we tread the path of horror. As we embark on another bone-chilling tale, I urge you to show your support, leave a like, subscribe, and let the nightmare begin. It was a moonless night, the kind that instills a sense of foreboding. Alex sat behind the wheel, his knuckles white as he gripped it tightly, navigating the desolate road. He had heard rumors of strange occurrences on this very route, tales whispered in hushed tones by locals who knew better than to venture out after dark. Yet, for reasons unknown even to himself, Alex found himself driving along that eerie stretch of asphalt. The air was heavy with an unnatural stillness, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl and the faint rustle of leaves. The tall, gnarled trees lining the road seemed to lean menacingly toward him, casting long, sinister shadows that danced in the headlights. Sweat trickled down his brow as his heart pounded in his chest. He couldn't shake off the feeling that he was being watched, as if unseen eyes were peering through the darkness. As he continued driving, a thick fog descended, swallowing the surroundings in a ghostly haze. It wrapped around the car, reducing visibility to a mere few feet ahead. Alex's grip tightened on the wheel, and he squinted, struggling to make out the road ahead. The faint glow of his headlights bounced off the fog, creating an eerie tunnel of light. Suddenly, the car engine sputtered, and the headlights flickered before dimming. Panic coursed through Alex's veins as he desperately tried to restart the vehicle. After what seemed like an eternity, the engine roared to life, and the headlights regained their full strength. Alex sighed with relief, attributing the incident to a mechanical glitch. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that something more sinister was at play. Resuming his journey, Alex glanced at the rearview mirror and froze. In the reflection, he caught a glimpse of a pale figure standing on the road behind him. The blood drained from his face, and he swiveled his head to look behind him, but there was nothing there. He told himself it was a trick of the light, a product of his own imagination, but his racing heart refused to be convinced. With trembling hands, he fumbled for his phone to call for help, but there was no signal. The silence was deafening as he realized he was utterly alone, stranded in the depths of the night. His mind raced, conjuring images of malevolent spirits and vengeful ghosts lurking in the shadows, waiting for him to let his guard down. Just as his nerves reached their breaking point, a faint whisper filled the car, carried on the breeze. "Leave," it seemed to say, a chilling warning that sent shivers down Alex's spine. He knew he should turn back, heed the voice's advice, and escape this nightmare, but a mixture of curiosity and dread compelled him to press on. As he ventured deeper into the night, the road twisted and turned, taking him through dense forests and abandoned stretches of land. The darkness seemed to have a life of its own, closing in around the car, suffocating him with its oppressive weight. Shadows danced on the periphery of his vision, shapes that seemed to slither and crawl, mocking his attempts to comprehend them. Then, a figure materialized in the distance, standing directly in the middle of the road. Alex's heart lurched in his chest as he slammed on the brakes, screeching to a halt just inches away from the mysterious figure. It was a woman, her face obscured by a tattered veil, her body draped in a flowing white gown that billowed in the night breeze. Fear coursed through Alex's veins, but he couldn't tear his eyes away from her haunting gaze. Her eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, filled with ancient knowledge and unfathomable sorrow. He found himself entranced, a willing captive of her spectral beauty. The woman raised a bony finger, pointing into the distance, her voice a hollow echo in the stillness. "Turn back," she whispered, her words filled with a chilling finality. The sound of her voice shattered the spell, and Alex's instincts screamed at him to flee. With a surge of adrenaline, he slammed the car into reverse and sped away, leaving the mysterious woman behind. As he put distance between himself and the spectral figure, the fog began to lift, and the oppressive darkness started to recede. The road became more familiar, the surroundings less threatening. Eventually, Alex found himself back in civilization, surrounded by the comforting glow of streetlights and the hum of civilization. Exhausted and shaken, Alex parked his car by the side of the road, his hands still trembling. He sat in silence, reflecting on the night's events, wondering if what he had experienced was real or simply a figment of his imagination. But deep down, he knew that he had encountered something beyond the realm of the ordinary, something that would forever haunt his nightmares. From that night on, Alex never ventured out on desolate roads after dark. The memory of that terrifying night drive would forever be etched in his mind, a constant reminder of the thin veil that separates the world of the living from the realm of the unknown. The night was draped in a blanket of darkness as Mark embarked on a treacherous journey along a desolate highway. The road stretched endlessly before him, its asphalt path lined with ancient trees that whispered secrets in the wind. As he gripped the steering wheel, a chill crawled up his spine, warning him of the malevolent forces that lurked in the shadows. The moon was but a sliver in the sky, providing minimal illumination to guide Mark through the abyss. His headlights cut through the gloom, revealing a seemingly abandoned world, devoid of life. Each passing mile only heightened his unease, as if an invisible presence watched his every move, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The atmosphere grew suffocating, the air heavy with an otherworldly stillness. Mark's heart pounded in his chest, his senses heightened to the point of paranoia. Every flicker of movement caught his attention, every rustle of leaves sent his nerves into a frenzy. It was as if the very night itself conspired against him. Suddenly, a thick fog slithered across the road, wrapping around Mark's car like a ghostly shroud. Visibility diminished to a mere few feet, forcing him to rely solely on the dim glow of his headlights. The fog seemed to have a life of its own, shifting and swirling, forming eerie shapes that danced on the periphery of his vision. The road became treacherous, a winding labyrinth that seemed to lead nowhere. Mark's palms grew clammy as he struggled to maintain control of the vehicle. Panic gnawed at his insides, but he knew he had no choice but to press on, trapped in this nightmare of his own making. Whispers brushed against his ears, carried on the wind that whispered through the cracked windows. Unintelligible voices, filled with anguish and despair, echoed through the car, causing Mark's skin to prickle with dread. He clutched the steering wheel tighter, trying to block out the haunting symphony of voices that threatened to unravel his sanity. In the midst of the fog, a figure appeared ahead, standing motionless in the middle of the road. Mark's blood ran cold as his headlights illuminated a disheveled man, his eyes vacant and soulless, staring into the void. With trembling hands, Mark honked the horn, desperate to snap the man out of his trance. To his horror, the man turned towards him, his face contorted in an expression of profound sadness. Mark's heart pounded in his chest as the figure slowly raised his arm, pointing to a nearby crossroad. His voice, a hoarse whisper carried by the wind, reached Mark's ears. "Don't go," it pleaded, a desperate plea laced with sorrow. A shiver ran down Mark's spine as he contemplated his options. Every fiber of his being screamed at him to flee, to turn back and escape the clutches of this nightmarish realm. But curiosity mixed with a perverse fascination held him in place, compelling him to follow the man's directions. With a heavy heart, Mark steered his car down the indicated crossroad, a path that veered deeper into the heart of darkness. The fog thickened, enveloping the car in an impenetrable mist. The road became treacherous, pockmarked with potholes and jagged edges that threatened to swallow the vehicle whole. As he continued along the winding road, Mark noticed figures darting through the fog, their ghostly forms flickering in and out of existence. They whispered secrets and curses, their voices a cacophony of madness that echoed through his mind. Their haunting cries reverberated through the car, clawing at Mark's sanity, slowly unraveling the fragile threads that held him together. Suddenly, the car's engine sputtered and died, leaving Mark stranded in the heart of the nightmarish realm. Darkness pressed against the windows, threatening to consume him whole. With trembling hands, he attempted to restart the engine, but it remained lifeless, mocking his futile efforts. Desperation flooded his veins as he realized he was trapped, surrounded by malevolent forces beyond his comprehension. The fog seemed to take on a life of its own, creeping closer, smothering the car in a suffocating grip. Shadows danced on the periphery, twisted forms that defied logic and reason. A figure materialized outside the car, its eyes burning with an otherworldly light. It was a woman, her ethereal beauty tainted by an aura of darkness. She whispered in a voice that sent chills down Mark's spine, "You dared to tread where mortals fear to go. Now you shall face the consequences." Fear seized Mark's heart as he watched the woman approach. His mind raced, desperately seeking an escape from this nightmare. And then, an idea sparked within him. He remembered a story he had once heard, a tale of breaking a curse by confronting the spirits that haunted the realm. Summoning every ounce of courage, Mark stepped out of the car and faced the woman head-on. The air crackled with tension as he spoke, his voice quivering but resolute. "Release me from your grasp. Let me depart from this cursed place." The woman's eyes bore into him, her expression shifting from malevolence to curiosity. Slowly she nodded and the fog receded, unveiling a road that led back to the familiar world of the living. Mark wasted no time and sprinted towards his car, his heart pounding with relief. As he sped away from the nightmarish realm, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that he had narrowly escaped an unspeakable fate. The memory of that terrifying night drive would forever be etched in his mind, a reminder of the dangers that lie beyond the veil of our reality. From that night forward, Mark avoided desolate highways after dark, the specter of the haunting highway forever etched into his consciousness. He had encountered a realm that defied comprehension, a world where the line between the living and the dead blurred into oblivion, and he knew he was fortunate to have escaped with his life, forever scarred by the terrors he had witnessed on that accursed road. Jake was a seasoned traveler, accustomed to long nights on desolate roads. He reveled in the solitude, finding solace in the darkness that wrapped around him like a comforting cloak. However, one fateful night would forever change his perception of the open road. The moon hung high in the sky, casting an ethereal glow upon the landscape. Jake navigated the winding highway with ease, the hum of his engine serving as his sole companion. The air crackled with an eerie stillness, and a sense of unease settled over him, but he brushed it off as mere fatigue and pushed forward into the depths of the night. As the hours passed, Jake's eyelids grew heavy, his focus waning. He yearned for a break, a moment to stretch his legs and rejuvenate his senses. It was then that he noticed a figure on the side of the road, thumb outstretched, seeking a ride. A hitchhiker. Curiosity and a desire to alleviate his weariness compelled Jake to pull over. The hitchhiker approached, his face obscured by a tattered hat and long, unkempt hair. Jake's intuition sent warning signals, cautioning him against inviting this stranger into his vehicle. But something in the hitchhiker's eyes spoke of a deeper, unspoken understanding. Without uttering a word, the hitchhiker climbed into the passenger seat, his presence permeating the car with an unexplainable chill. The hairs on Jake's neck stood on end as he resumed his journey, the hitchhiker's presence casting a palpable unease over the cabin. In the rearview mirror, Jake caught glimpses of the hitchhiker's reflection, his face distorted and flickering like a spectral apparition. The unease within him grew into a knot of fear, gnawing at his insides. He tried to engage the hitchhiker in conversation, seeking to break the suffocating silence, but the man remained silent, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. A dense fog began to creep across the highway, swallowing the surroundings and reducing visibility to a mere few feet. Jake's grip tightened on the steering wheel as he strained to see through the ethereal mist. The hitchhiker's presence seemed to intensify, his aura taking on an otherworldly glow. As if guided by an unseen force, the hitchhiker pointed to a dilapidated narrow dirt road veering off from the main highway. Jake hesitated, a nagging feeling warning him against venturing into the unknown. Yet, curiosity mingled with trepidation, urging him to follow the hitchhiker's silent command. The dirt road was uneven and treacherous, causing the car to jostle and sway. Jake's knuckles turned white as he clung to the steering wheel, the eerie silence broken only by the crunching of gravel beneath the tires. The fog grew thicker, enveloping the car in a disorienting haze, making it difficult to discern the road ahead. Abruptly, the hitchhiker spoke, his voice a hollow whisper that sent shivers down Jake's spine. "I died on this very road," he uttered, his words chillingly matter-of-fact. Jake's heart skipped a beat as he struggled to comprehend the implications of the hitchhiker's revelation. Before he could react, the car jolted, its tires skidding on the loose gravel. Panic surged through Jake's veins as he fought for control, his heart pounding in his chest. The car screeched to a halt, teetering precariously on the edge of a steep ravine. The hitchhiker's presence seemed to fade, leaving behind an overwhelming sense of dread. As Jake attempted to steady his nerves, he realized the hitchhiker had vanished from the car. He stepped out into the fog, heart pounding, and scanned the surroundings, but there was no sign of the enigmatic figure. An icy breeze whispered through the trees, carrying with it a mournful sigh. Determined to escape this nightmarish ordeal, Jake retraced his path, inching his way back to the main highway. The fog gradually lifted, unveiling a world devoid of the supernatural presence that had plagued him. The road, once again visible, offered a path to safety. Relieved, Jake continued his journey, haunted by the memory of the phantom hitchhiker. The incident forever changed him, leaving an indelible mark on his psyche. He couldn't help but wonder if he had encountered a spirit from beyond the grave, or a mere figment of his imagination. Years passed, and Jake's life took a different course. He settled into a quiet routine, his night drives becoming a distant memory. But on rare occasions, when the moon hung low in the sky, he would catch a glimpse of a tattered hat, a flash of wild hair, and a pair of haunting eyes in his rearview mirror. The phantom hitchhiker had become a lingering presence, a reminder that some encounters transcend the realm of the living. Jake had escaped the clutches of the supernatural that night, but the hitchhiker's visage would forever haunt his dreams and whisper in his ears, a chilling reminder of the thin veil that separates our world from the unknown. From that day forward, Jake swore off picking up hitchhikers, fearful of the dangers that lurked beneath their seemingly innocent exteriors. The night drive had transformed from a solitary journey into a labyrinth of darkness, where nightmares and reality merged into a terrifying existence. As he forged ahead, Jake's mind was forever plagued by the question, what otherworldly forces had he truly encountered that night, and what malevolent spirits still lurk in the shadowed corners of the open road, waiting for their chance to manifest their presence once again. Only time would reveal the chilling truth. The night hung heavy, a shroud of darkness that consumed the world. Emily found herself driving along an isolated road, the desolation permeating the air. The trees loomed like towering sentinels, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. A sense of foreboding settled over her, as if the road itself held an ancient secret waiting to be uncovered. Emily's knuckles turned white as she gripped the steering wheel, her heart pounding in her chest. She had taken a wrong turn, finding herself on this forsaken path, far from any signs of civilization. But she had no choice but to push forward, praying to find her way back to familiar territory. The headlights pierced through the thick veil of darkness, illuminating the road ahead. The beams created a tunnel of light, casting eerie shadows that danced on the edges of Emily's vision. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the faint hum of the engine and the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. Suddenly, the engine sputtered, and the car jolted to a halt, leaving Emily stranded in the heart of the night. Panic surged through her veins as she attempted to restart the vehicle, but the engine remained lifeless. She checked her phone for a signal, but to her dismay, there was no reception, leaving her completely cut off from the outside world. Emily's gaze darted nervously into the surrounding darkness. Something felt off, as if she was being watched by unseen eyes. A chill ran down her spine as a voice, faint and distant, whispered through the stillness. "Leave this place," it seemed to say, a warning that sent shivers down her spine. Summoning her courage, Emily decided to venture out of the car, determined to find help or a way back to civilization. As she stepped onto the road, a heavy fog descended, swallowing the surroundings in its ghostly embrace. Visibility dwindled to almost nothing, obscuring her path and disorienting her senses. Lost in the fog, Emily stumbled forward, her heart pounding in her chest. The air grew colder, each breath a sharp sting in her lungs. She strained her ears, hoping to catch a sound, a sign of life, but all she heard was her own rapid heartbeat echoing in the darkness. With each step, the road seemed to stretch endlessly, leading her deeper into the unknown. Doubt gnawed at her resolve as fear wrapped its icy tendrils around her thoughts. She questioned her decision to venture out, wondering if she had walked into a trap from which there was no escape. Suddenly, a figure materialized in the distance, standing in the middle of the road. Emily's heart leaped into her throat as she approached cautiously. It was a man, tall and slender, his face obscured by the mist. He seemed to radiate an otherworldly aura, drawing Emily closer despite her instincts screaming at her to turn away. The man's voice was a whisper carried on the wind. "This road holds a secret," he intoned, his words both mesmerizing and chilling. Emily's curiosity was piqued, her resolve strengthening as she felt compelled to uncover the enigma that held the road in its clutches. Following the man's guidance, Emily veered off the main road and onto a narrow, winding path. The fog clung to her like a second skin, wrapping around her in an ethereal embrace. Shadows danced in the periphery, their sinister movements amplifying her unease. As she ventured deeper into the labyrinthine road, Emily's perception of time grew hazy. Minutes stretched into hours, and the world seemed to warp around her. She questioned her sanity as the road twisted and turned, leading her into a surreal dreamscape. Whispers echoed through the mist, and voices carried on the breeze, taunting her from all directions. Visions flickered in her peripheral vision, phantasmal shapes that dissolved into nothingness when she turned to face them. She pressed on, determined to unravel the mystery that held her captive. A sense of impending doom settled over Emily as she reached a clearing bathed in an eerie glow. In the center stood a dilapidated house, its windows shattered and its walls coated in decay. The air was heavy with a malevolent presence, an ancient evil that seeped from the very core of the building. Summoning her courage, Emily stepped into the house, the creaking floorboards protesting her presence. The walls seemed to breathe, whispers swirling in the air, their origin impossible to pinpoint. Each room she entered carried the weight of forgotten memories, their echoes seared into the very fabric of the house. In the darkness, a voice whispered, "Leave this place or be trapped forever." Fear surged through Emily's veins as she realized the dire consequences of her curiosity. The house seemed to come alive, its walls closing in on her, trapping her in its sinister embrace. With a surge of desperation, Emily bolted towards the exit, the house resisting her escape at every turn. The whispers grew louder, urging her to stay, promising her an eternity within its cursed walls. But she fought against their seductive call, her determination burning bright within her. Finally, she burst through the front door, gasping for breath as the cool night air filled her lungs. She stumbled back onto the road, the fog gradually dissipating, revealing the path back to the safety of civilization. Emily's heart swelled with relief as she sprinted towards her car, desperate to put the haunted house behind her. As she sped away, the fog faded into the distance, leaving behind a sense of unease that clung to her like a shadow. The memory of that terrifying night drive would forever be etched in her mind, a reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of the world. From that night on, Emily vowed to avoid unknown roads, wary of the hidden secrets they held. She had witnessed the twisted depths that exist beyond our comprehension, and she would forever be haunted by the vanishing road that had led her to the edge of her sanity.